Thank you so much for joining me today on another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner, and this episode is brought to you today by NIKKI, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to optimize wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrist. And make sure to stick around to the very, very end because as always, we have a special giveaway and you're not going to want to miss 1 second, but you're not going to want to miss 1 second of this next guest anyway, because he's absolutely incredible. We're going to blow your brain, one of my favorite supplement companies to use, just because not only is it just a phenomenal product, but they also lead with their heart and science, and like they put all these beautiful things together into one company, a lot like NIKKI, and that's part of the reason why I adore them so much. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Drew Kidder to the show. Yay. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Heather. Great to be here. It feels like we've only been talking about this for a couple of years now. So
It was easier to schedule Dr. Todd than you.
right, exactly. Yeah, pulled in a lot of different directions. So it's awesome. Thank you for your persistence and glad to be here. Super
Yeah.
excited. Like you said, it's super cool to see like how congruent not only we have been over the couple of years that we've known each other, but how congruent what Cellcore is doing and what NIKKI is doing.
Oh,
Got
he's
mine on
his
my
on
wrist.
too, yeah. What are you running right now?
What's that?
What are you running right now?
I am actually running immune
Mhm.
because, as crazy as it sounds, we have a ton of people in our office that are all sneezing. I
Oh.
am leaving for vacation on Saturday. I ain't having it.
Right?
Not having
You
it.
fools are not making me sick. That's awesome.
No,
I'm getting
no.
histamine right now because I was drinking some bone broth and some kombucha the other day, and it kind of kicked up some histamine stuff for me. So
Ooh, there you go.
yeah, and I got stung by a wasp. I couldn't believe it. I got stung by the wasp on my chest, and I started to get this huge welt, and then I put this on and hit histamine, and the welt went away within 5 minutes.
That's
I have
amazing.
never seen anything like it.
So
Anywho, sorry,
cool.
I was just so excited. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what kind of a doctor are you? How did you get involved with Cellcore? Like, tell us a little bit about Drew Kidder.
Yeah, so rewinding way back to the early days. So first of all, I'm a doctor of chiropractic by trade, postgraduate work in functional medicine and in clinical nutrition. I think I was one that realized early on in clinical practice that while I loved like the science, the art, everything with chiropractic and adjusting, I really kind of struggled with the fact that so many of the patients that I saw in clinical practice were, I knew their issues were far beyond just the pain, right? That I was looking at, part of the reason why they had recurring pain wasn't just from an injury, it was because they were in a chronic state of inflammation, right? And that inflammation was linked to their dietary habits, their lifestyle habits. They weren't sleeping well, they weren't moving, exercising. And I really delved, I'm going to date myself, but 23 years ago now, dipped my toe into this world of functional medicine. And I said, wow, I really feel like this is helping patients. I didn't deviate entirely from chiropractic. I still, was adjusting patients, but I was incorporating functional medicine, nutrition, chiropractic all into really a wellness model, that's what I feel like chiropractic is really founded on. And it's interesting because, as chiropractors, we talk so much about thoughts, traumas, toxins, all the things that lead to health issues. And I felt like I was only addressing this much until I really got super passionate about functional medicine. Practiced for 16 years. My wife is a registered dietitian, so we incorporated a lot of work together in clinical practice. And then in 2016, I kind of got an itch, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna either dig my heels in the sand and become a practice for the rest of my life, the rest of my career, or I'm going to kind of do some different things. And so I made that decision to kind of step out, doing some coaching, consulting, helping people build supplement brands, helping them with kind of tough clinical cases. And I met this guy who was new in practice, Dr. Todd Watts, who, people from the Cellcore community know, connected with him. He tried to get me over to the Cellcore side. It took about 3 years, and, joined Cellcore back in 2020, and, absolutely love what the company is doing, what we're doing different in this space, from just a foundational, in this, whether we say root cause, functional, integrative world, how what Cellcore is doing is, as we've coined the term, more foundational medicine and truly looking more upstream. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how important it is in a topic like detoxification, that addressing mitochondria is, absolutely critical. So
Absolutely.
didn't come from a medical background, kind of, or I should say, certainly alternative and functional medicine background with family. My family was very, very allopathically driven. Nurse that was, or a aunt who was a nurse, and it just didn't resonate with me. And even when I was looking at exploring the road of allopathic medicine, I wanted to either become an orthopedic surgeon or a pediatrician. And I talked to both, and it's like, talk about polar opposites in the world of allopathic medicine. I had both of them say to me, hey, the pediatrician family friend was like, why do you want to go into pediatrics? And I said, because I love kids. And he goes, wrong answer. You see them when they're sick, when they have snotty noses, you're the bad guy because you're poking, prodding, all that. And I'm like, nope, I'll be a father. I don't need to be a pediatrician. And then the orthopedic world was, well, do you want to be tied to your pager and a cell phone because, Christmas
Talk
mornings,
about dating
Thanksgiving.
yourself. You just said pager.
Well, because it was, I mean, it was
Right.
pagers back then, right? My old orthopedic surgeon who worked out at my gym, he on his weight belt had two
Oh,
pagers,
geez.
beep, 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 vibrate, and off he was to a phone. So yes, I did date myself.
I was like, pagers, who even uses pagers? But no,
Yeah,
I'm just so glad that you're talking about the integrative side to it, because even, God bless chiropractors, the ones that are just focused on manipulations are still missing so many pieces to the health puzzle, right? Like I
yeah,
used to work in a couple chiropractors' office and they ate horribly. Like it drove me crazy. But they were also looking at things, they were diving a little deeper than your traditional like Western med type things as far as root cause type stuff. So I felt like they had an extra step to the healing, but then there were other things that were missing. So that integrative approach, right? The functional approach,
right.
the diet, the lifestyle, the all the things.
Yep. And that's so funny that you say that, because I know a lot of, people, friends and colleagues of mine that I love dearly, but I look at it and go, okay, you're getting adjusted, you're taking your supplements, but your nutrition and your exercise are horrible. And it's kind of the analogy that I use is that's like a humidifier and a dehumidifier in the same room and turning them both on,
Right.
right? If you're eating garbage, if you're not sleeping well, you're not, breathing well, exercising, how do you think that a supplement is going to be this magic, cure all? It's like, it's got to be this whole model truly of wellness. And I know the wellness term has been overused over the years, but what's this picture of what health looks like?
So tell us a little bit about Cellcore, kind of what makes them different as a company and as a supplement company.
Yeah, so as I said, we've kind of coined over the years, the term foundational medicine. And while a lot of functional medicine practitioners, they may have come from the allopathic world. I know a lot of, functional medicine practitioners, doctors, nurse practitioners, DOs, PAs, that they wanted to leave that allopathic world, but they're still practicing functional medicine with an allopathic mindset, right? So they were used to running comprehensive labs, and they were prescribing drugs to mitigate what they saw. Oh, this is elevated, take a drug to lower it. This is low, take a drug to elevate it, right? And they moved that mindset into functional medicine, where then they were simply using supplements instead of drugs. And oh, your labs say you're deficient in magnesium, here's magnesium. You're deficient in calcium, here's calcium. You're not sleeping well, take melatonin. All of these things, but they weren't looking upstream and aren't looking upstream at what's causing that deficiency. And so we live in this toxic world. We like to say that toxicity leads to deficiencies in many cases. And it's more important for us, and when I say us, whether we're talking to practitioners or patients, to say what doesn't belong here versus what do I need to add. Let's look at removing the toxic burden, before we just simply say, oh, let's throw a supplement at it to raise or lower something. So Cellcore has really over the past, since its inception, 2017, has carved out a niche in looking at the importance of addressing mitochondria, because we have mitochondria in every organ, gland, cell of the body, with the exception of red blood cells. And what do we need to do to support that, as well as, even before we get to detoxification, what are we doing to support drainage pathways, right? Because clinically, detox occurs primarily in the liver, phase 1, phase 2 of liver detoxification. But are you pooping? Are you sweating? Are you moving to support your lymphatic system? All of those things. So, we really have focused on addressing a little bit more chronic illness, dealing with mold and mycotoxins, heavy metals, environmental toxins, Lyme disease, as you're an expert in, parasites. So, it's been a really fun ride, changing lives. And, those lives that are changed are not just patients, they're lives of practitioners, because of, how we're supporting their practices and helping them help their patients. So it's awesome. I kiddingly say I just traded going from dealing with whiny patients to dealing with whiny doctors in my role with Cellcore. But absolutely love it, because it's far reaching, knowing that, like you're helping other people help who's in their sphere of influence. It's amazing.
It's so amazing. The Echo, your guys's we're a conference that comes up every year.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, but I absolutely love and adore. And it's kind of gross, but I love all the parasite pictures that go up during that conference,
Oh
because
yeah.
to actually be able to see with your own eyes, like what is actually happening to people. So many people talk, oh, there's no parasites in the US. People in the US, only if you travel out of the country. And it's still a really huge misnomer. And it can be a huge burden, right? A blocking a pathway to why people don't get better is addressing these toxins, these parasites. And so, yes, I love it. And
Yeah,
then
and I was one that used to kind of, no pun intended, poo-poo the whole parasite topic, because I thought the same thing. Oh, how many people have parasites? Well, the more I delved into my own, studies, I said, wow, it is prevalent. Now, whether or not that exposure to a parasite causes a problem in any given patient, that kind of is dependent upon their health status, because many of them have the ability to get rid of those parasites without issue. But if we go back again to that drainage, right? Are you able to rid the body of those parasites, of those toxins? I now kiddingly say, if you want to know if you have parasites, take these two fingers on your right hand, apply them to the radial pulse of your left wrist, and if you have one, you probably have parasites.
the
Right?
pulse. Yeah, right.
If you have a pulse, you have a parasite, right? Because do you have pets
I was just gonna say it. If you
that
have
live in your
pets,
home?
double that. Yeah.
Do you kiss on your pets like I do, right? You're
I
exposed to them because they're out in the soil. They're out, in messing with who knows what. If you ever travel outside of the country, if you ever eat sushi, if you swim in any body of water outside of a chlorinated, brominated pool, right? You're exposed to parasites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the vegetarians kind of crack me up, because they're like, and they're even sometimes more susceptible because they're eating a lot of the food, like the produce and the stuff like that, that doesn't get cooked, where you would cook off some of these parasites. They
Yep.
actually can be at a higher risk. So I always found it hilarious when vegetarians were like, oh, and the parasites you get from eating meat. I'm like, no, no. Do you know what you get from your produce?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into the topic of supporting mitochondria for detoxification, and why should we even care about detoxification? This is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about poop, and I love talking about detoxing because, I mean, there's so many of us out there that aren't, and then we're so sick because of it. It's toxic, but God bless Cellcore, God bless NIKKI, right? We're doing this one person at a time. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my favorite and probably my most impactful frequency that I use on the NIKKI. If you've never seen this before, it looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device with a bunch of different frequencies. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference. But my personal favorite frequency is the insomnia one. If you know me, you know I don't sleep at night. I'm known for like those middle of the night texts and random thoughts, and I have been that way my whole life, not just since I got sick with tick-borne illness. But the NIKKI nighttime and or insomnia frequency is basically programmed to work with your body's natural resources to get you to go to sleep and get you set for nighttime. It helps with cellular repair and detoxification overnight, which is super, super important for everyone, but especially with people with Lyme and tick-borne illness like me. So I just wanted to kind of demystify it and share a little bit about it. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Bye.
NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better, do better. We are NIKKI.com.
Woohoo! Welcome back. Are you guys having as much fun as I am? These are some of my favorite topics, like critters and poop and all that stuff. It's just, that's really when I started to heal on my healing journey. Is getting like, oh my gosh, and the Cellcore's bowel mover, like the best stuff on the market. And I've tried it all. Like that stuff is legit. It works every single time. I can't get over. I think I was at the conference last year and I ran out and I was like, anybody have any? Because it never fails. When I travel, it just happens.
It happens.
Everything stops. And you guys had just sold out of the last bottle, and I was just like, whoever bought some, can I please? I'll pay you $5 for a pill for bowel movement. Like, please. But yes, let's talk a little bit more about supporting mitochondria for detoxification.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, and it's funny, I think our careers and our lives go full circle in the things that, when we learn going through any level of education, it's the stuff that we learn to regurgitate, that we kind of purge. But then when it's relevant, like in clinical practice, and you see the impact in patients and people's lives, then it's like really something you become passionate about. And mitochondria is one of those topics for me, because I think it's talked about, but it's oftentimes overlooked in its importance in leading to other things, like I said, in dealing with detoxification and the importance in supporting it. So if we look at what mitochondria are, right, they're these amazing, we think back to the pictures that we saw going through our first biology class, whether that was middle school, high school, college, whatever. They're these kidney bean shaped organelles that are in each and every one of our cells. And they're responsible for energy production, about 90% of cellular energy production. And in fact, if we could ask the majority of people that are tuning into this, what's their first thought when you say mitochondria? Everyone goes,
ATP.
Right, the powerhouse of the cell, right? It's this, that's what we learned. And that's true, right? It's responsible for converting glucose into pyruvate, into acetyl-CoA, and then into this thing of this currency of energy, ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. That production occurs in the outer cell membrane, the outer, part of the cell, which, as we'll talk about, is very susceptible to damage. And so I'm a big numbers guy. I love numbers. I love numbers when they deal with our health. And I go, our body is pretty intelligent. And if we look at the number of cells in our body, we look at the number of mitochondria per cell, it's pretty staggering. So they've never, I don't think, counted them. I can't imagine how you would count, individual mitochondria within a cell, but they speculate that in the human body, we have anywhere from hundreds to millions of mitochondria in every single cell in our body. And we have trillions of cells. Now, the importance of those areas, it's like it tells the tale when we look at how many mitochondria in an organ like our liver. Roughly 2,000 mitochondria per cell in our liver. Our heart has about 5,000 mitochondria. Our brain has about 10,000 mitochondria per cell, with certain areas like the substantia nigra, which has upwards of 2 million mitochondria. So, as I said, they're not just responsible for energy production, they're responsible for regulating immune function. They're responsible for addressing infections, both adaptive and innate immune. And I'm not going to dive deep into that, but think of innate as like our first line defense. It's natural killer cells, it's macrophages, it's neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, things that any type of foreign invader on our skin, in our body, it's that innate immune function that's the first line defense. And the mitochondria are responsible for that. The adaptive immunity is secondary. That's much more specific, where we have T cells and B cells, lymphocytes that will attack those foreign invaders. They're also, critically responsible for regulating something called apoptosis. And apoptosis is programmed cell death, right? Our cells in our body age, they die off. Well, mitochondria are what control that apoptosis process, which that's one of the things that can happen with aging, is that those cells are dying, but they can become what's called senescent and become like zombie cells in our body, that our body isn't able to get rid of those dead and dying mitochondria, process called mitophagy. So, really, really important. They also communicate. There's intracellular signaling that occurs between the mitochondria. And then a cool thing a lot of people don't know is mitochondria are responsible for melatonin production. Melatonin is critically responsible for our sleep, right? We get melatonin production from daylight exposure. We know here we are looking at a computer screen, and blue light, hence why I wear blue blockers, impacts melatonin production, right? Why I always say to people, cut off your screen time in the evening, or else you're going to wreak havoc on melatonin, right? But the mitochondria are, part of that process. So how do these mitochondria become damaged? As I mentioned, the cell membrane is where this process of energy production occurs in the mitochondria, but the cell membrane is really vulnerable and susceptible to damage by viruses, by bacteria, by vector-borne pathogens, being the Lyme boss, right? Lyme disease is a vector-borne pathogen. It's toxins, things like mold and industrial chemicals, environmental chemicals, heavy metals, all of those things can cause damage to the mitochondrial membrane. Well, if that outer membrane is damaged, then mitochondrial DNA and RNA can get outside of the cell. That creates an inflammatory response, an inflammatory cascade, and is in essence a danger signal. It's like a red flag within our bodies, and something isn't right, something's not in balance, and that's something that is referred to as the cell danger response. Well, it has been well documented that you can literally look at whether it's cancers, whether it's neurodegenerative disorders, whether it's autoimmunity, all of those in some way are linked to damage and dysfunction of our mitochondria. Well, in root cause, again, whether we look at root cause medicine, functional medicine, integrative medicine, or Cellcore's term of foundational medicine, it is toxic load and infectious burden, if you will, that lead to immune dysfunction, lead to inflammation, something called ROS, right? Reactive oxygen species, oxidative stress in our body, and ultimately to potentially chronic illness. Oh my goodness. God bless you. She's holding back that sneeze. Holding back.
It came out.
I'm sorry, I stole your sneeze. So again, it doesn't matter whether we're looking at those neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whether it's heart disease, whether it's type 2 diabetes, obesity, autism, general cognitive decline, right? Dementia, things like that. All of them can in some way be linked back to mitochondrial dysfunction. I love to say I'm an MD, right? While that's not my clinical training, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm an MD because I'm a mitochondrial doctor. I like to say, let's address your mitochondria first before we even look at whether it's addressing hormones, whether it's addressing gut, detox, whatever. We have to give the cells the energy that it needs to address things like, let's just kick off the toxin topic, right? So big researcher. I love looking at data. I love looking at PubMed and seeing what the data actually shows. Well, my memory serves me correctly. I think it was almost 2 years ago, about this time in 2022, a great study came out talking about the prevalence of forever chemicals in water, right? These PFOSs and PFASs, that's capital P, capital F, capital O, capital S, these forever chemicals that are used in things like our clothing, on our furniture, stuff like that. So, incredibly toxic world that we live in with that. In about a decade or so ago, the Department of Health and Human Services came out with a study, and they said that there are over 80,000 chemicals registered in the United States for use in foods, personal care products, prescription drugs, cleaners, lawn care, the list goes on and on and on. And they add about 2,000 of those per year. About 2,000 are added to that formulary, if you will. Another mind-blowing study, I think it was summer of 22, came out. The CDC said that they found in a study of about 600 children, 650 or so kids, that there was the weed killer glyphosate found in the urine of 87% of the kids tested. Well, I won't digress too much, but in its infinite wisdom, glyphosate or Roundup was approved to be used because they found in their research that human beings don't contain the pathway that destroys in things like plants, right? Why it can be spread on plants is because the shikimate pathway is something that's used by bacteria, funguses, algae, plants to produce amino acids. Well, they said humans don't contain the shikimate pathway, therefore it's perfectly safe. Well, guess what? We don't inherently have the shikimate pathway, but the bacterial flora in our gut do. So it is destroying the good, healthy bacterial flora in our digestive system, which is leading to an increased prevalence of things like leaky gut. Why do we have more autoimmune conditions, nowadays that are linked to our digestive system? Because through produce and meats that are fed conventional produce, conventional grains, things like that are sprayed with glyphosate, it's destroying our gut. Bottom line.
Right.
So what do we do?
Well, and I love the detox products that Cellcore has. Like if I ever wanted to rebrand, I always said I was going to do something like the Detox Diva because after being constipated since I was 4 years old, like detox was my main, and I didn't sweat either, right? I didn't realize that was an issue. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people, so I wasn't sweating, I wasn't pooping. I was so toxic and so sick. And man, after getting a lot of these toxins out of my system, all the lights started coming back on. It was a night and day difference. It was incredible. And I love coming at it from different, areas. Like Cellcore's got its way. I like to add it with the NIKKI, and it's the bioenergetic way. Also wanted to ask you, what has been some of your experiences with NIKKI? How long have you been using it now?
Gosh, I think about a year and a half now.
Okay. What are some
Um,
of your favorite frequencies, and like what are some of your tell us some of your cool stories from it? Like have you obviously you're still wearing it, so you got to find some value from it, yeah?
Still wearing it, absolutely. So, I my go-to like in the morning driving into work, not that I have a super long, stressful drive. I live in Boise, Idaho, so traffic isn't like it is in major cities, certainly not in the Denver area. But I put it on the travel setting
Mm,
because I love just like, yes, you're going to get cut off. It's got the stress benefit. It's got some, like resilience, immune supporting. So I really like that. I love the sleep cycles. I sleep well, but if I don't sleep well, I click it because I wear it to sleep. I will, in full transparency, I always turn the Bluetooth off. I'm not a fan of Bluetooth. So the only time I turn the Bluetooth on is to download,
your frequency.
frequencies.
Yep.
But I turn it off, I sleep with it on. If I wake up for some crazy reason, because I'm getting old and my sleep is impacted, um, I put it on to either the nighttime or onto the insomnia setting. But as I mentioned earlier, I have it on the immune right now, just wanting to support my immune system leading up to a vacation and wanting to do that. We've combined some Cellcore products on some of the NIKKIs. We're seeing amazing clinical results with people who are using the NIKKI along with Cellcore products. It's a game changer. I mean, quantifying it, it's kind of hard to say, but a lot of the practitioners that are doing that, whether it's for general detox, whether it's for Lyme, mold and mycotoxins, parasites, they're noticing about a 20 to 25% improvement in clinical outcomes with doing both. So it's just the frequencies, and I don't totally understand it. I mean, Stephen, has tried to educate me on it as much as he's able to, but we're energetic beings, right? It's like you put an energy, a frequency into the body, it's going to utilize it, it's going to up the frequency, up the efficacy and effectiveness of even the products that you are taking. And that's why I think it's so awesome to see the results that we've gotten with Cellcore and NIKKI.
I was my husband's got one. And so he did the insomnia one for the first time last night. He
Yeah.
woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He happened to have it on and he went, "Oh, let's try that." He said he went right back to sleep immediately. He didn't have and that's not normally his MO. But I was doing an experiment with him with some Cellcore products mixed with the NIKKI on the detox because he's got tinnitus. And his tinnitus has gotten like 80% better in the past 3 months by using the two together. And I had used other people's detox products, heavy metal mover, I've thrown everything at his tinnitus, and not until Cellcore mixed with the NIKKI, I'm finally starting to move the needle.
Yeah. No, I love, as we're talking about this, this mitochondria and detox, topic. I personally look, the energy setting on it is great. Do I notice a boost in like my physical energy? No, but I know that those frequencies are helping with mitochondrial energy, supporting mitochondria. So, I love even the energy one. If you can't tell, I'm kind of high
I was
energy.
just gonna say I can't see you needing
And
energy.
I don't really, but again, there's that difference between cellular energy
Right.
and kind of like physical, what you really feel. Hopefully it should manifest, right? If you're supporting your mitochondria, manifests in energy production. But just piggybacking those, the detox side of it. Ironically, with Cellcore, why do we see the results with our products? Because they're high energy products.
Mm.
You know, the fulvic acids that we use in them are charged particles, right? They come from extracts, humics and fulvic, so from the soil, but they contain the very building blocks of human life: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So they're able to donate an electron, you know, the currency of energy. Electrons are critically important in energy production. And I know we don't have any more time to get into that, but even phase 1, phase 2 of liver detoxification, they require the exchange of energy, right? An oxidation and reduction reaction is the exchange of electrons. This is a cool tidbit that I don't think you have even heard either.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Is one molecule of fulvic acid contains 14 tetratrillion electrons. That's the number 14 with 21 zeros after it. So why, with the clinical results that we've seen over the years with Cellcore products, and you're a testament to that, why is it high energy, with that supporting, from an electron standpoint, giving the body what it needs? And they're able to supply, they're able to bind, remove toxins. So, cool. And that's why it works so well with the NIKKI from a frequency standpoint.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing all your amazing wisdom and nuggets. Like, it was incredible. And I always learn something when I'm listening to you or Dr. Todd Watts or Dr. Jay Davidson. Like, the Cellcore, you guys are just absolutely brilliant. And I absolutely just adore that company. Thank you for joining us. Make sure we'll end up putting the Cellcore's link and everything in the show notes. So if you wanted to check out some of their products, I know you need a practitioner code. I'll go ahead and slap mine in there so that way you guys can order. If you absolutely need any questions around that as well, you can always contact me to figure out, what's going to be best for you. And then also make sure to visit wearenikki.com/podcast. Make sure to enter in BioBeats for an extra 10% off your NIKKI. But because we love our customers so much, we end up giving away a NIKKI with the frequency sets, the wellness sets on every episode. So it's around like a $597 value. So yeah, make sure to go in and plug in your information. That'll be in the show notes as well. Thank you and congratulations to the July NIKKI winners. We got Anita M, Constantinos G, Christy Ori, and Chris L. Again, apologies if I did not pronounce your name right. I am not the greatest with that, but much congratulations to winning a NIKKI device and the wellness set of frequencies. And to the rest of you, keep listening and make sure to continue to enter for your chance to win. Have a healthy day. Thanks again.
There's a new word for wellness: NIKKI. NIKKI, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. NIKKI is about helping you do better. NIKKI takes bioenergetic frequency science to a new level and onto your wrist. NIKKI technology carries frequencies into the body to organize and optimize the cellular network, the trillions of cells that communicate by light and frequencies to keep us alive and feeling our best. Physical and mental trauma can upset cellular communication, and NIKKI is designed to help restore it. Touch the NIKKI screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Low energy? Touch energy for a boost. Stressed out? Stress and anxiety is to calm you down. Aches and pains? Choose NIKKI Pain. If you're going on a trip and want to arrive fresh and ready to enjoy your vacation, touch travel. NIKKI has frequency sets intended to fight allergies, strengthen immunity, and keep viruses and bacteria at bay. NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are NIKKI.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Freemedica. Freemedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.